7 Asian nations, never colonized by Europeans. 1. Japan. The first Europeans accidentally ended up in Japan in 1543. The Portuguese introduced matchlock guns to the land of the rising sun. Several countries considered colonizing Japan. During the 16th century, Japan was in turmoil. Feudal lords were itching for a fight, so invading seemed like a bad idea to countries like Spain. Plus, sending an army would be a logistical nightmare. In 1657, Japan implemented a seclusion policy. It barred all Europeans, except for the Dutch, from entry. The main objective was to eradicate Christianity, but it had the added bonus of keeping potential invaders at bay. In 1895, Japan won the First Sino-Japanese War. In 1905, it emerged victorious in the Russo-Japanese War. Instead of being colonized, Japan became an imperial power in its own right. 2. Thailand, Siam. Thailand was once known as the Kingdom of Siam. In the 19th century, it found itself in a tricky position, with French Indochina to the east and British Burma to the west. King Chulalongkorn decided to play it smart. He established the first professional army in Siamese history. He embraced numerous European customs. He also showed interest in European technologies. He played the British against the French, keeping Siam's land intact. 3. Turkey. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was too mighty for any power to annex it, but the Europeans liked to try. In the 19th century, they began peeling off parts of the empire. They either seized them or backed independence movements. During the Crimean War, the Ottomans borrowed from European banks. The Sublime Porte couldn't repay its debts. The London and Paris banks took control of its revenue, but the Ottoman Empire remained self-governing until its collapse. 4. Afghanistan. The Emirate of Kabul. Both Great Britain and Russia competed for influence in Central Asia. Their rivalry was known as the Great Game. The Afghans crushed the British in the First Anglo-Afghan War. Only one army medic survived to tell the story. The British tried to conquer the Emirate of Kabul again. They succeeded in the Second Anglo-Afghan War. They gained control over the Emirate's foreign relations, but Afghanistan maintained internal control. 5. China. Like the Ottoman Empire, Qin China was too vast to seize outright. Instead, Britain and France established a presence via trade. Russia, Italy, and Japan later adopted the same strategy. The powers divided coastal China into spheres of influence. They eroded the Qing dynasty's sovereignty without annexing it. 6. Iran. Persia. Persia was a valuable pawn in the Great Game. In the 19th century, Russia took parts of northern Persian land. Britain extended its influence in eastern Persian Baluchistan. The Qajar rulers of Persia borrowed from European banks. Persia was never formally colonized, but it did temporarily lose revenue control and territory. 7. Nepal. Nepal lost the Anglo-Nepalese War to the British East India Company. The British gained control of 30% of Nepal's territory, but they were unwilling to continue fighting in the challenging terrain. The rest of Nepal remained independent. The British Army even recruited some of the Gurkha soldiers